Sister aka parents' favorite child tries to poison me at the family dinner while I'm 2 months pregnant as a joke because I got pregnant before her and it's so unbelievable to her, and parents thought it was hilarious because I survived anyways, but now they're mad, claiming that I'm trying to put her in a bad light because now everyone is keeping a distance from them because everyone thinks they're all crazy. I, 26 female, am currently married to my amazing husband Caleb, 27 male, and we have been trying for a baby for a while. After months of waiting, we finally found out that I was pregnant about 2 months ago. We were so excited and nervous all at once. After all the struggles, we finally had the baby news we had hoped for. What we did not expect was the reaction from my family. I have a younger sister, Ella, 22 female, who has always been the golden child of the family. Growing up, Ella and I had a pretty complicated relationship. Being the youngest sister, she was always our parents, Henry, 56 male, and Doris, 56 female, favorite. At first, it was not super obvious, but as we got older it became clear how differently they treated us. Ella was always the life of the party, outgoing, confident, and just naturally charming. She always stole the spotlight at family events, whether it was because of her achievements, her personality, or her knack for making everyone laugh. It seemed like everything she touched turned to gold. She aced her classes and had a ton of friends and made everything look effortless. I, on the other side, was more on the quiet side and a bit reserved. I did not always vibe with the crowd and my interests were often different from those around me. Everything I did, while they were important to me, did not grab my parents' attention like whatever Ella did. They were not straight away mean about it, but the difference in their support was pretty obvious. Ella was always the one they celebrated, while I felt like I had to put in extra effort just to get noticed. This created a lot of tension between us as we grew up. We had our moments, but there was always this underlying sense of competition. Ella never really took me seriously, and I could tell she thought my introverted nature was odd. As time went on, I started to pull away from her, mostly out of frustration, but also to escape the constant comparisons. It was not the healthiest relationship, but it was the one we had. Anyway, when Caleb and I found out I was pregnant, I was so excited to share the news with my family. I was not sure how they would react since I am not Ella, but I was hopeful that they would be happy for us. I thought my parents would be overjoyed. However, when I shared the news, the reactions were odd. My parents said all the right things, but it felt like they were holding something back. Ella, on the other hand, was not very enthusiastic. She barely reacted and made a few offhand comments like, "Wow, that's fast," or "Well, okay then." It felt dismissive and it kind of bothered me, but I tried to push it aside. I was excited about the baby, and I wanted to focus on that. But over the next few weeks, I noticed some tension between Ella and me. When I talked about the pregnancy, she would make sarcastic remarks, like, "Well, I guess you are really going to be one of those people," or "That is what happens when you do not wait too long to get pregnant." It was clear that she did not think much of my timing or my choice to get pregnant first. I guess she assumed she would be the one to have kids first, which I can kind of understand, but I also found it a little petty. But it was not just Ella's attitude. It was the way my parents reacted to her. They brushed off her comments like it was no big deal. It was obvious that they were not concerned about her being hurtful to me. Fast forward to last week, and my parents invited Caleb and me over for a family dinner. It was meant to be a casual fun evening, just a chance for everyone to catch up and enjoy each other's company. Nothing big, but, of course, that's when things went completely sideways. When we arrived, my sister Ella made a big deal out of how she had cooked a special dish for dinner. Now, I am not trying to be mean, but Ella has always had trouble with cooking. I've seen her make meals that were either undercooked or overcooked, and I have had my fair share of stomach aches and food poisoning after eating her food. So when she brought out a dish she was so proud of, I was a little skeptical, but I did not say anything. I did not want to hurt her feelings. I just thought it would be fine to try it and then leave the table if I did not feel well. So she served me a plate of this dish and I started eating it. Immediately I noticed it tasted weird. Not bad, but strange. It was not the kind of food that sat well in my stomach and it left a strange aftertaste, but I tried to ignore it because I did not want to make a fuss and I did not want my parents and Ella to start a fight with me over this. Caleb noticed I was not eating much and he asked me if everything was okay. I told him that I was fine, just feeling a little off. I thought it was just my nerves or maybe the pregnancy hormones messing with me, but the more I ate the worse I started to feel. I was really trying to power through, but halfway through my meal I started feeling lightheaded. My stomach was churning and I felt like I might throw up, and that's when it hit me that something was not right. I quietly moved my plate away and attempted to slip out. But then Ella just stared at me and with this weird laugh she said something that really scared and shocked me. She was like, "I did not think you would actually go through with it. You are super lucky you did not end up with food poisoning or anything. But hey, you made it right?" I did not know what to say. I was in shock. Was this some kind of a joke? I could not believe it. I was 2 months pregnant and I felt so sick. I could barely keep my balance. I tried to tell myself she was just trying to be funny, but that was not funny. That was not a joke. That was cruel. I had to leave the room. Caleb noticed how pale I was and immediately asked if I was okay. He helped me get to the car and we rushed home. I was so scared. I did not know what was happening, but I knew something was not right. Caleb drove me straight to the hospital because I was in severe pain. After a few tests, we found out that I had ingested something in Ella's food that caused a reaction. The doctors did whatever they had to do. Thankfully, my baby was okay, but I was told that it could have been very dangerous. If I had not gotten to the doctor in time, it could have resulted in something far worse. Caleb was beyond angry when he figured out just how bad things were. As soon as we got home and I was settled and safe, he picked up the phone and called my parents. He did not hold back at all. He told them straight up how disgusted he was with what they did and how they treated me. His voice was loud and angry as he demanded to know how they could find anything funny about a situation that put me and our unborn baby at risk. When they tried to brush it off as just a harmless joke, he interrupted them, making it clear that this was way more than just a bad joke and that their actions were downright cruel and irresponsible. He made it very clear that if they could not grasp how serious this was, they would not be welcome around me or our child. Seeing Caleb stand up for me was so comforting. It was obvious he would not let anyone, not even my family, put us in harm's way or treat me so faultlessly. The next day, I reached out to my parents to share what went down. Instead of offering support, they actually seemed upset with me. My mom was like, "You are okay now, right? You made it through. So what is the problem?" But my dad also downplayed it, saying I was overreacting. I was taken aback. I tried to explain how serious the situation was, but they kept insisting that Ella did not intend any harm. They thought I was just blowing things out of proportion. Things took a turn for the worse when Ella did not even bother to apologize. She just brushed it off with a laugh, claiming I was being too sensitive. She even went as far as to say I was ruining her fun by making an issue about it. My parents did not support me either. Instead of recognizing how serious the situation was, they treated it like it was no big deal. At that point, I was so frustrated and hurt. My parents seemed more interested in defending Ella than they did in listening to how I felt. I could not believe they were defending her behavior. I felt like they were completely blind to how serious it was. It did not stop there. In the days that followed, I noticed a change in our family vibe. A bunch of my relatives who were at the dinner began to contact me. Some expressed their worries and checked up on me because of what went down. Meanwhile, others, including some extended family members, started pulling away from my parents and Ella. They mentioned how messed up it was to joke about something like that, especially with a pregnant woman involved. The more feedback I got, the clearer it became that my parents were the only ones standing up for Ella and what had happened. There is a real divide in our family right now. My parents are really mad at me for messing everything up and making Ella look bad. They keep saying that I'm just trying to paint her in a bad light, but honestly, the more I think about it, the more I cannot wrap my head around why they do not see how serious this situation is. I really do not want to stir up family drama, but I cannot just brush this off and pretend it did not happen. How am I supposed to act like everything's fine when things could have turned out so much worse? I could have lost my baby. I'm at a loss for how to move forward with my parents when they're just letting this behavior slide. Ella has not even said sorry, and it feels like my family is making me the scapegoat here. So I need to know, AITA, for making a big deal out of this, or should I just let it go and move on like they want me to? Update 1. Hey, guys, it's been about 2 weeks since the awful dinner with my family, and I need a few opinions from the ones reading my post. A few days after everything went down, my aunt reached out to see how I was doing. She had picked up some details from other family members, all of whom were pretty stunned by Ella's actions. Out of everyone, she was one of the few who genuinely seemed to care about my feelings. She asked if I was all right and how I was coping with everything emotionally. It was such a relief to talk to her. She's always been in my corner, and it felt so nice to have family members supporting me. Towards the end of our chat, she suggested that I might want to think about filing a police report against Ella. The way she said it was so calm and sincere that it caught me off guard. I had not even thought about that as an option. Involving the police felt like a big step, but the more I thought about it, the more I started to wonder if she might be onto something. My aunt explained that what Ella did was not just a joke gone wrong, it was potentially dangerous. She told me that I have every right to protect myself and my unborn child, especially if my parents refuse to hold Ella accountable. It hit me then how serious this was and how close I had come to something terrible happening. I did not know if I would go through with it, but it felt validating to hear someone else acknowledge that my concerns were legitimate. After the call with my aunt, I talked to Caleb about it. He has been nothing but supportive through this whole mess. And when I mentioned the idea of a police report, he did not hesitate. He told me that whatever I decided, it would be there for me. He said that if going to the police is what I feel is necessary to protect myself and our future child, then he would back me up all the way. I felt more confident that I did not have to just accept what happened or let my family dismiss my feelings. I could act, and maybe that is what I needed to do. It is definitely a tough decision. If I decide to go to the police, it could ruin any chance of mending things with my family. Even though I feel totally let down by my parents and Ella, taking that step would be irreversible. I still feel guilty, like I might be overreacting, just like my parents keep saying. I cannot help but question if I am overreacting or if reporting it would be too much. But I also know I cannot just brush off something this serious, especially since it impacted my health and could have endangered my baby. My parents are really upset with me, claiming I'm out to ruin Ella's life and that I am overreacting. They have even said I'm holding a grudge and seeking revenge because she is the favorite, which is totally not the case. This is not about jealousy or competition. It's about my safety and my unborn child's safety. The more I think about it, the more frustrated I get. I cannot wrap my head around how my parents do not see how serious this situation is or how they can defend Ella's actions. It feels like they are in some kind of alternate universe where everything she does is perfectly fine. On the other hand, Caleb has been reaching out to a few other family members to get their thoughts, and many of them agree with him. Some relatives have even distanced themselves from my parents and Ella because they do not want to be associated with people who would do something so dangerous. It is comforting to know that others see the severity of this situation, but it also makes me sad that my own parents cannot see it, and that hurts more than I can put into words. I am stuck in a tough spot right now. Should I go ahead and file a police report to make everything official, even if it means my relationship with my parents and sister could totally fall apart? Or should I just brush it off like they want me to and pretend it never happened? It is a daily struggle for me. Part of me feels like I need to defend myself and show that Ella's actions were out of line. But then there is this nagging fear about how it could push me even further away from my family. Would filing a police report be too much? Am I overreacting? Or is this a justified step to take after everything that has happened? Update 2. Hey, everyone, it has been 2 weeks since that horrible family dinner, and things have gotten even messier since my last post. I'm really struggling here and I could use some advice on what to do. I also wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who took the time to comment on my original post. Your opinions and advice have really helped me see things more clearly. I know that I've been struggling with guilt and second-guessing myself, but reading all your perspectives made me feel a lot more grounded and supported. Knowing that so many of you saw this as serious and validated my concerns means a lot. I have taken everything into consideration, and it has helped me make a decision that feels right for me and my baby. It is hard to take a stand like this against my family, but I know now that protecting myself and holding Ella accountable is the best thing I can do. I really appreciate each and every comment. Thank you for helping me find some clarity in all this. Initially, I was taken aback. The thought of filing a report seemed like a massive step, and honestly, I had not even considered it until that moment. But my aunt pointed out that what Ella did was not merely a silly prank or a simple mistake. It could have been really dangerous. She reminded me that my well-being and the safety of my unborn baby were on the line, and I should not feel pressured to downplay it just because it involved family. It is a tough choice to make though. I know that filing reports would mean breaking any remaining ties with my family, and my parents would likely never forgive me. They are already mad, calling me overdramatic and accusing me of holding a grudge against Ella just because she is their favorite. My parents have tried to twist this whole thing into an issue of jealousy, which is so far from the truth. This is not about sibling rivalry or grudges. It is about my safety and my baby's safety. Apparently, my parents caught wind that I was considering taking legal action. Instead of reaching out to talk to me directly, they went to Caleb hoping he would talk some sense into me. I guess they thought he would convince me to just let it go, but Caleb did not hold back. He told them exactly how disgusted he was by what they had allowed Ella to get away with. He made it very clear that if they thought he was going to let this slide, they were dead wrong. I was not there for the call, but from what he told me, he did not hold back on how deeply disappointed he was in them for downplaying something so dangerous. Not long after the phone call, I received a text from Ella. It was the first time she had tried to explain herself since the incident. The message started out with her saying she did not mean for it to go that far, but as I kept reading, her tone turned dark. She actually admitted that she did not want me to have a baby before her, which I knew. She said she felt entitled to be the first to start a family, and seeing me get pregnant was like a slap in the face. Her jealousy over something as natural and personal as a pregnancy was deeply disturbing. The message went on, and the more I read, the more it seemed like she was actually confessing that she had planned to poison me out of pure spite. She even hinted that it was not just a joke or prank gone wrong, that she did it because she could not stand the idea of me becoming a mother before her. I was feeling really unwell. I did not respond to her message, not because I did not have a ton of things to say, but because I realized that replying would just make things worse. The only way I could manage the situation was by ignoring her. Ella's first apology felt more like a weak excuse, and I thought maybe she would finally understand the seriousness of her actions. I held on to the hope that she would start to think about what she had done, but instead, the fact that I did not reply to her just made her more furious. The next day, I received another message from her and it was way darker than the first. Her whole vibe had shifted. She was not even trying to defend her actions anymore. Instead, she jumped right into blaming me, calling me selfish for getting pregnant before her, claiming I was stealing her thunder and saying I deserved what happened at dinner. She even threw out some awful threats, warning that if I tried to ruin her life by talking to anyone or pressing charges, I would regret it. I was at a loss for words. It was obvious she was desperate to protect herself, even if it meant trying to scare me into silence. That was the moment I knew I could not keep this in the family. If Ella was capable of saying such hateful things to her own sister while also knowing that she had already put my health at risk, I had to take action. Her words, the way she admitted to her jealousy and tried to justify her actions, it was all there in black and white. I knew I had to keep these messages as proof. After seeing that last message, I made up my mind, I need to file the police report. I know it's going to cause a huge mess in my family, and I'm sure my parents will see it as some sort of unforgivable betrayal, but I cannot just sit back and pretend that this did not happen. It is not just about me, it's about protecting my baby and making sure that Ella understands there are consequences to her actions. This is not something I can sweep under the rug, especially after she doubled down on her actions and threatened me. I'm really heartbroken over everything that has happened. My parents have pretty much taken Ella's side, ignoring the real danger I was in, all just to keep the peace. It is crushing to see them so oblivious to how serious this is, choosing to back her instead of being there for me when I need them the most. Some family members have already pulled away from my parents and Ella, saying they cannot be around people who support that kind of behavior. It is nice to know others recognize how serious this is, but it just makes me feel even more alone when it comes to my own family. In the end, I have to do what's right for me and my child, even if it means taking this drastic step. I know that by filing this report, my relationship with my parents and Ella will probably be broken beyond repair, but I cannot just ignore the fact that my own sister endangered my health and my baby's life out of jealousy. Her texts, her threats, all show a level of malice that I cannot overlook. I do not know if this is the right choice, but I feel like it is the only choice left if I want to protect myself and hold her accountable. I'm really scared about what's coming next. I do not want to hurt my family, but I cannot keep acting like everything is okay. And considering the fact that my family tried to ruin the family I was making, I should not care so much about hurting their emotions. If standing up for myself means cutting off my family, then maybe that is just something I have to deal with. Update 3. Hey, everyone, it has been a few weeks since my last update, and I wanted to tell you all what has happened since then. Things have gotten even more complicated, but I have finally made a decision that I feel is the right one for me, Caleb and our baby. As I mentioned in the last update, I was planning on filing a police report and I did with proof. After I filed the report, things with my parents took a serious turn for the worse. When they found out, they were furious. They had no clue I was actually going through with it, but once I showed them the evidence, the text, the threats, everything, they could not ignore how serious Ella's actions were. Instead of acknowledging that, they jumped straight into damage control, trying to downplay the whole situation. They twisted everything around, acting like I was overreacting or just trying to stir up drama. They could not wrap their heads around why I would not just drop it, why I was making it a big deal. My dad especially kept insisting it was just a family issue and that I should not let it mess things up with Ella. He kept saying stuff like, families argue, then they make up, treating it like it was just a minor spat that could be resolved with a chat. But I could not understand how they did not see that this was not just a disagreement. It was a serious threat. I could have had a miscarriage. I could have died. My mom on the other side was even more stressed. She was frantic trying to guilt-trip me for not dealing with this within the family. She claimed that by going to the police, I was tearing the family apart and breaking their hearts. It was tough to hear, honestly. She seemed more concerned about her feelings than what I had actually gone through. There were tears and a lot of blame directed at me. She made it clear she thought I was being childish and that I was destroying our family over a misunderstanding. It was like she could not see that what Ella did was way more than just a simple mix-up. It was a deliberate attempt to hurt me. Anyway, I did not pay attention to whatever they had to say. Of course, things got even messier after that. My parents were furious. They called me every name under the sun and accused me of destroying the family. They said I was causing drama and that I should just let it go. They tried to make me feel guilty, but I knew this was not about them. It was about what was best for me and my baby. My parents, along with Ella, tried to defend her actions and downplay what had happened. They kept insisting it was just a mistake, but I knew the truth. It was dangerous, intentional and fought out. After everything that happened, I also decided to file for a restraining order against Ella. I could not allow her to come near me or my baby. I was tired of the manipulation, the threats, and the toxic environment she had created. She was out of my life for good, and this was the step I needed to take to ensure she stayed that way. The restraining order was granted and it feels like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. As for my parents, they have not taken the news well. They're still siding with Ella, refusing to see how serious the situation is. It is heartbreaking, but there's nothing else that I can do. They have made their choice and I have made mine. I've distanced myself from them for now, and I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I made the right decision. My priority is my safety and my child's safety, and I cannot apologize for that. In the end, I feel like I've done what I needed to do. I have taken a stand for myself and my baby, and I am not going to let anyone make me feel like I'm in the wrong for that.